Hi everyone, Pastor Steve here from Plumpton Community Church. We're continuing on with our topic about the Christian worldview versus secular humanism. As I said in the previous videos, the prevailing or dominating belief system today in the Western nations is secular humanism. Although many people don't know what secular humanism is, they've been impacted by it. Political correctness has taken over. The prevailing ideas about what's right and wrong and where we come from and so forth, and we've all been impacted by it at some level. Yesterday I read out a verse about found in 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 4, that he will oppose and exalt himself over everything that is called God or is worshipped, so that he sets himself up in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God. This is what the Apostle Paul wrote in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 4. Now I also read from a book by Tim LaHaye called Mind Siege, where he says that secular humanism says there is no deity to help us, we must help ourselves. And going by Paul's verse that he wrote there in the New Testament, we see that when we remove God from the center of life and sideline him, we then begin to put ourselves in the place of God. And just like Paul says here, we sit ourselves basically on his throne. We make up the decisions about what's right and wrong, what's morally okay and what's not. And this is what secular humanism does. It basically dethrones God and puts man on the throne, and so man is now the ultimate purveyor of truth and decides for himself what's right and wrong, because God is no longer in the picture. And this of course causes all sorts of problems, because if there is no God and man is the one that makes up what's right and wrong on moral issues, then whoever is in control gets to make those choices about what's right and wrong, and it's just a person's opinion or a government's opinion or a person in power's opinion, and there's no real absolute truth anymore, and that leads to anarchy and all sorts of things. And pretty much where we are today, where also in the book it says there's no absolute truth. This is what we call postmodernism. And so we create our own truth. So what's true for me may not be true for you. So, you know, obviously when you take that out to its logical conclusion, I might decide that killing the Jews in World War II was a good thing, which it wasn't. Of course, murder is murder. The Bible says do not murder. But people like Adolf Hitler, they believed that the Jews being murdered was not such a bad thing, because that was their worldview. That was what they believed, that the Jews needed to be eradicated, and they did this great evil 70 years ago or so, and they killed the Jews because they were Jewish, and there was no real other reason for it. They blamed them for all the evils in the world. But if there's no God, then who are we to say that he was wrong? But if there is a God, then of course what he did is evil. So that's the position that most people would take. But if there's no absolute truth, then that's just your opinion. If there's no God, then that's just your opinion. This is where secular humanism takes us. And then there's the other thing there with the New Age religion, which plays into secular humanism as well, is that I am my own God. And this is what is happening today. Now, that doesn't mean people are necessarily say, well, I'm a God, although there are people like that out there, of course. Most people don't think that way, but they live like they are God. They don't have any reference to the Bible, to God, to moral values. They make them up for themselves as if they are God. And it's just like the problem in the beginning in Genesis chapter 3, verse 5, where it says, you shall be as God. The same problem today. People today are living as if they are God, and they don't have to obey the commandments of God because they make up the decisions about their own life. You know, you hear people say, no one's going to tell me what to do. That's the prevailing idea today, that I will make up my mind about what's right and wrong for me. Unfortunately, when we do that, we end up doing things to other people that are wrong, but we consider that what we're doing is okay because that's what we want. And that's where secular humanism leads to, and it leads away from God. So, let's just be praying about this, because it's affecting our children and our grandchildren primarily as well. God bless. I'm Pastor Steve.